A simple janitor was cleaning the lobby when a $1 million vase suddenly shattered into pieces. Within seconds, fingers pointed at her. She was blamed, judged, almost fired. But when the billionaire reviewed the truth, he said something that left the entire building speechless. What he revealed next changed everything. Stay tuned because you are about to watch a beautiful story and find out what happened next. Hello family, welcome to Tales by King. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful story. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. The Zenith Crown Tower stood tall in the heart of downtown Chicago. Its glass walls reflected the morning sun. Luxury cars pulled up every minute. Men and women in expensive suits walked confidently through the rotating doors. Every detail inside the building screamed wealth, power, and control. But one thing stood out more than anything else. In the center of the marble lobby stood a tall crystal vase placed inside a clear protective glass case. It sparkled under golden lights from the ceiling. Visitors often stopped to admire it. "It's worth $1 million, people whispered proudly. The vase had been purchased by the building's owner, Adrian Cole, one of the youngest billionaires in the country. He believed in symbols, and that vase represented legacy. But not everyone in that building felt like they belonged there. At exactly 6:45 a.m., before most executives arrived, Martha Daniels pushed her cleaning cart across the lobby. She wore a simple blue janitor uniform. Her shoes were old but clean. Her hair was neatly tied back into a low bun. Her face carried quiet strength, but her eyes looked tired. She had been working in that building for 6 years. 6 years of early mornings. 6 years of cleaning up after powerful people who barely noticed her existence. But Martha never complained. Every morning before work, she checked her phone for updates from the hospital. Her mother had been sick for months. Medical bills were heavy. Some days she worked extra shifts just to cover medication costs. As she began mopping the polished marble floor near the display case, she moved carefully. She always avoided getting too close to the vase. She knew its value, and she knew people like her were often blamed first. Around 8:30 a.m., the lobby slowly filled with employees. 2 junior executives walked in laughing loudly. Ethan Brooks, confident, proud, always holding his phone. And beside him was another staff member discussing an upcoming client meeting. Ethan glanced at Martha and lowered his voice. "Why do they let janitors clean around million-dollar items?" he muttered. His friend chuckled. "Accidents waiting to happen." Martha heard them. She always heard comments like that. But she kept her eyes down and continued mopping. On the other side of the lobby stood Clara West, the CEO's personal secretary. She had just arrived and was reviewing her tablet. She heard Ethan's comment too. Her expression changed slightly. She didn't like that tone, but she said nothing. Yet, Martha carefully moved around the base of the display case. She placed a wet floor sign a few steps away to prevent anyone from slipping. She bent down to wring out her mop. At the same time, Ethan was walking back toward the elevators, typing quickly on his phone. He wasn't looking up. He laughed at a message. And then, his shoulder bumped lightly into the side of the display stand. It wasn't a strong hit, but it was enough. The glass case trembled. The metal stand shifted slightly. Martha looked up immediately. The vase inside tilted. Time slowed. Her heart dropped. The vase leaned. And then, crash. The sound exploded through the lobby like thunder. The glass shattered in every direction. The crystal vase hit the marble floor and broke into sharp, sparkling pieces. Everyone froze. The echo bounced off the high ceilings. A woman near the reception desk screamed softly. Security guards rushed forward. Phones came out instantly. Martha stood frozen, her mop slipping from her hand. She stared at the broken pieces. Her breathing became heavy. I didn't touch it," she whispered. But Ethan quickly stepped back. And then, without thinking, he pointed. She was right there. The words came out fast. Too fast. Heads turned toward Martha. The security guard looked at her suspiciously. Ma'am, step back. Her hands began to shake. I didn't push it, she said, her voice trembling. I was cleaning. But she stopped speaking, because suddenly she realized something painful. No one was listening. All they saw was a broken $1 million vase, and a janitor standing beside it. Clara's eyes narrowed. She replayed the last few seconds in her mind. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Ethan looked nervous now, but he crossed his arms and acted confident. She was the only one close to it. The crowd murmured. Some employees whispered quietly. This is bad. She's definitely fired. That thing was priceless. Martha felt her stomach tighten. Fired? If she lost this job, her mother's treatment would stop. Rent would be impossible. Everything would collapse. Tears filled her eyes, but she refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of them. Then the elevator doors opened behind them. The private executive elevator. Silence fell instantly, because when that elevator opened, it meant only one person, and heavy footsteps slowly approached from behind the crowd. The owner of the building, the man who bought the vase, the billionaire himself. And in that moment, Martha knew her life was about to change. She just didn't know how. Adrian Cole walked forward calmly. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit. His face was sharp, controlled, unreadable. He did not rush. He did not speak, but his presence alone made people straighten their posture. When he reached the broken display case, he stopped. His eyes moved slowly over the shattered glass, the broken crystal, the damaged stand. Then, he looked up. Explain. His voice was low, but it carried power. No one wanted to be the first to speak. Ethan cleared his throat quickly. Sir, the janitor was cleaning beside the display. She must have knocked it over. The words came out smoothly. Too smoothly. All eyes turned to Martha again. Her hands were still shaking slightly. I did not touch it, sir, she said carefully. I was wringing my mop when it fell. Adrian did not react. He studied her face. Then he looked at Ethan. Did you see her push it? Ethan hesitated for half a second. Yes, sir. She was very close. Clara felt something twist inside her chest. That was not what she saw. She stepped forward slowly. Sir, she said respectfully, I think we should check the security footage before making any decision. The room went quiet. Some employees exchanged glances. Ethan frowned. Sir, with all respect, it's obvious, he said quickly. The evidence is right here. Adrian's eyes shifted back to the broken pieces. Obvious, he repeated softly. Then he looked at Martha again. How long have you worked here? 6 years, sir, she replied. Any complaints filed against you? No, sir. Her voice was barely steady, but she did not look away. Adrian turned slowly toward the crowd. 6 years, he repeated. No one spoke. Martha could feel her heart pounding loudly in her ears. If he fired her now, she had no defense. She imagined calling the hospital. She imagined telling her mother. She imagined packing her locker. Her throat tightened, but she stood straight. She refused to beg. Ethan crossed his arms confidently. Sir, accidents happen, but responsibility must be taken. Clara shot him a sharp look. Responsibility, she repeated quietly. Yes, Ethan replied firmly. Adrian's expression did not change. He turned to the head of security. Bring the footage. Ethan's confidence flickered for just a second. It's not necessary, sir, he added quickly. We all saw. Adrian looked at him. That was enough to silence him. Bring the footage, Adrian repeated. Security moved immediately. The tension in the lobby grew heavy. Employees whispered quietly again. What if she really did it? That vase was priceless. He won't forgive this. Martha closed her eyes briefly. She whispered a silent prayer. Not for money. Not for protection. Just for truth. A few minutes later, they stood inside the building's security control room. Multiple screens covered the wall. The footage from the lobby was pulled up. Adrian stood with his hands behind his back. Clara stood slightly to his left. Ethan stood on the right, trying to look calm. The video began playing. There was Martha, mopping carefully. Adrian watched closely. No one breathed. The timestamp rolled forward. Then, Ethan appeared in the frame. Walking, texting, laughing at his phone. He moved closer to the display, still not looking up. Then, his shoulder bumped into the stand. The stand shifted. The glass trembled. The vase tilted and fell. The sound of the crash echoed from the speakers. The room went completely silent. The footage did not lie. Martha had not touched it. She had not even been facing it. Clara slowly turned her head toward Ethan. He looked pale now. Very pale. I didn't feel it move, he muttered weakly. Adrian did not speak. He replayed the clip. Again and again. Each time, the truth became clearer. Ethan stepped back slightly. Sir, it was just an accident. Adrian finally turned toward him. Yes, he said calmly. It was. The calmness in his voice was more frightening than anger. Ethan swallowed. But what concerns me, Adrian continued slowly, is not the accident. He stepped closer. It is the speed with which you blamed someone else. Ethan's mouth opened slightly. No words came out. Clara felt a quiet sense of relief. Martha had been telling the truth. But what would happen next? Adrian's face remained controlled. But something in his eyes had changed. And everyone in that room knew. This was no longer about a broken vase. It was about character. And someone was about to learn a very expensive lesson. They walked back into the lobby. But this time, the atmosphere had changed. Word had already spread. Employees who were not there before now stood quietly in small groups. Some pretended to work while secretly watching. The broken glass had been cleared, but the empty space where the vase once stood felt heavy. Martha stood near the side of the lobby, unsure where to look. Ethan walked a few steps behind Adrian. His confidence was gone now. His shoulders were stiff. His face looked drained. Clara followed quietly. Adrian stopped in the center of the lobby. Everyone went silent again. He turned slowly to face the staff. The security footage has been reviewed, he said calmly. No one moved. He paused deliberately. Mrs. Daniels did not touch the vase. A ripple of whispers moved through the room. Martha's chest tightened. She had been holding her breath without realizing it. Adrian continued. The vase fell because someone was distracted. His eyes shifted toward Ethan. And that someone was not the janitor. All eyes turned to Ethan immediately. He looked down. For the first time since the crash, he had no words. Adrian took one slow step forward. An accident is forgivable, he said evenly. But blaming someone else to protect yourself is not. The words landed hard. Ethan's voice shook slightly. Sir, I panicked. Yes, Adrian replied calmly. You panicked. And in your panic, you chose the person you believed no one would defend. Silence. Some employees lowered their heads. Because deep inside, they knew something uncomfortable. They would have believed the accusation too. Adrian then turned toward Martha. She looked small standing in her simple blue uniform among expensive suits. But she did not bow her head. She simply waited. Mrs. Daniels, Adrian said clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear. I owe you an apology. The lobby gasped softly. A billionaire. Apologizing publicly. To accuse you without evidence would have been injustice, he continued. And you were humiliated in front of your colleagues. Martha's eyes filled with tears, but she tried to remain composed. Thank you, sir, she whispered. No, Adrian said gently. Thank you for standing firm in truth. Clara felt her throat tighten. She had worked for Adrian for 3 years. She had seen him negotiate billion-dollar deals without emotion. But this was different. This was leadership. Adrian faced the employees again. In this building, he said firmly, position does not determine value. His voice grew stronger. A janitor deserves the same fairness as an executive. He let that sink in. Effective immediately, Ethan Brooks is suspended pending full disciplinary review. Gasps again. Ethan looked up quickly. Sir, please. You will have the opportunity to explain yourself to the board, Adrian interrupted calmly. Ethan's face fell completely. Security stepped forward quietly. The humiliation that Martha had almost experienced was now turning in another direction. But Adrian raised his hand slightly. "Let it be clear," he continued. "This is not about revenge." He looked directly at Ethan. "It is about responsibility." Then he turned back to Martha. "You have served this company for 6 years with no complaint. For the emotional distress you endured today, you will receive a compensation bonus." Martha's eyes widened. "Sir, I don't need." "You deserve fairness," he said firmly. Her lips trembled. For the first time since the crash, she allowed one tear to fall. Not from fear, but from relief. Adrian stepped closer to the empty display stand. $1 million, he said quietly, looking at the empty space, can be replaced. He turned back to everyone. But integrity cannot. The lobby was completely silent now. Even the air felt different. Clara felt something shift inside her heart. She realized something powerful. The crash had not broken the company's image. It had revealed its character. Adrian looked around the room one final time. "From today forward," he said, "no employee will be judged without evidence. We do not destroy people to protect pride." He adjusted his jacket slightly. Meeting adjourned. And just like that, he walked toward the elevator. But this time, as he passed Martha, he paused for 1 second. And he gave her a small nod. Not as a billionaire, but as a human being. Martha stood there, stunned. The same lobby that almost destroyed her had just restored her dignity. And everyone in that building knew one thing. The vase had shattered. But something stronger had been built in its place. Respect. The lobby felt different the next morning. The broken glass was gone. The damaged stand had been removed. But something invisible had changed in the air. Employees walked more quietly. They greeted each other more respectfully. And for the first time in years, several executives said, "Good morning, Mrs. Daniels." Martha almost looked behind her to check if they were speaking to someone else. But they were speaking to her. At exactly 9 a.m., a small crowd gathered in the lobby. There was a new display where the vase once stood. It was not crystal. It was not expensive. It was simple. A clean, polished wooden stand. On it sat a glass frame with engraved words. "Integrity is worth more than $1 million. Below it, in smaller letters. In honor of those who work with honesty, regardless of title." Martha covered her mouth gently. She did not expect this. Adrian stepped forward beside the display. "This building," he said calmly, "was built on ambition." He paused. "But it will stand on character." His eyes moved around the room. Yesterday reminded us that truth matters more than pride, and dignity matters more than wealth. Then he turned toward Martha. "Mrs. Daniels, thank you for showing us strength under pressure." Martha shook her head softly. "I was afraid," she admitted honestly. Adrian gave a slight smile. "Courage is not the absence of fear," he said quietly. "It is standing even when you are afraid." Clara felt tears in her eyes. Several employees nodded slowly, because they understood. Later that afternoon, Clara knocked softly on Adrian's office door. "Come in," he said. She stepped inside. "Sir, may I say something?" He nodded. "Yesterday," she said gently, "you didn't just protect an employee. You changed how people see this company." Adrian looked out the window at the city skyline. "Wealth can build buildings," he replied calmly. "But fairness builds loyalty." He paused. "I have made mistakes before," he added quietly. "But I will not allow injustice under my leadership." Clara smiled softly. In that moment, she did not just see a billionaire. She saw a man who understood responsibility. That evening, Martha received a phone call from the hospital. Her mother's specialist informed her that the company's health program would now cover a larger portion of her treatment. She sat down slowly on her small couch. Tears rolled freely down her cheeks. Not because of money, but because someone had chosen to see her, to hear her, to value her. She whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude. Weeks later, a new vase arrived. It was beautiful, but smaller, less flashy. When clients asked about the previous one, the staff would simply say, "It was replaced." But those who were there that day knew the truth. The most valuable thing in that lobby was never the crystal. It was the lesson. That power without fairness is weakness, and leadership without humility is empty. One evening, as the sun set and golden light filled the lobby, Martha finished her shift. She pushed her cart slowly toward the exit. As she passed the wooden stand, she paused. She read the engraved words again. Integrity is worth more than $1 million. Behind her, Adrian stepped out of the elevator. He saw her standing there. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he said quietly, "You belong here." Martha turned. Her eyes were calm now. "Thank you, sir," she said. But Adrian shook his head slightly. "No," he replied. "Thank you." She smiled gently. And as she walked out of the building that night, her steps felt lighter. Not because her job was saved, not because of the bonus, but because her dignity had been restored. And everyone in Zenith Crown Tower would forever remember the day a vase shattered, and a company found its conscience. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you find this story worth watching. If you do, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful story, like, comment, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.